We have 2 weeks to train this reactive dog, and I'm currently on day 4, but before we jump into what we did today, I want to give you guys a very quick recap. On the very first day, we fundamentals of dog training, teaching luring and marking, and we also were able to start seeing a different side of Hank, which was his lead biting. On the second day, I took him out for a walk and discovered how bad his reactivity actually is, and how he then redirects that frustration onto the lead. Later on that day, I decided I would wait it out and see how long he can actually bite the lead for. Turns out he doesn't stop biting it unless you drop it. And on the third day we did have a successful walk, but he went over threshold and it turned into lead biting. So right now what we're doing is working on basic obedience, impulse control, working on markers, building up a solid foundation and a good relationship. And in today's video we are going to be showing you a very successful walk, and this is how I would walk a reactive dog. So if you do have a reactive dog, this could be really helpful for you. And then on the second part of the video, I did a training session with Hank using tug of war, and I'm going to be going into detail about how the impulse control can help and the techniques I use. This is mainly all done through positive reinforcement. Right, let's get into it. The very first thing I wanted to do before we even start our walk is build up a little bit of engagement with Hank and let him know I've got some really tasty treats for him, as well as doing a little bit of obedience just to build up that engagement and do a little bit of training before we go out. Can help massively when you have a reactive dog if you do the training inside first, just to give you a little bit of a vibe to see how they're feeling and how you're feeling. You'll notice here as well, I don't actually make him wait at the gate. You'll hear some trainers say you always have to do this. To me, it's a very small minor difference, but for Hank, his lead biting stems from frustration more than anything else. And I want to make him as little as frustrated as possible before the walk. I would train him separately for that, so he's less frustrated. We've been working on our markers, and this is primarily what we're doing is every time he engages with me, I say yes and rewards, and we've been working on that since day 1. Right here, you see he tries to pull towards the lamppost because he likes to smell it. I don't mind him pulling a little bit, but I do have an issue with him yanking on the lead. And this is why dogs can have problematic behaviors on lead, is because they learn that they pull, they get something good. If you allow them to pull to their heart's content, and then they reward themselves, it's only going to reinforce it. And now we're back to the engagement training. If you compare it to the first day where he was all the way in front, in about 2 or 3 days, he's managed to start understanding the game, being next to me, paying attention to me, good things happen. And on that reward, I then go into scatter feeding. As you guys know, I love scatter feeding for reactive dogs. It's a really helpful technique to use. It gets their nose down. And we've stopped once and we've given a lot of rewards. I need to count and check that. And this is all at the start of a walk straight off the bat to set the precedent for the rest of the walk. With leash pressure, that is one of Hank's triggers. Because he's very calm and very under threshold at the moment and he's in a good mental place, I'm able to start doing a little bit of leash pressure work with him. If I yanked the lead there, it would have had a strong possibility of him instantly turning around and biting it. Because I'm starting to understand him a little bit better, I can alter his training. Again, every single time he's looking at me, he can reward you. This is how you're going to have a much healthier relationship when you're working with a reactive dog. It can go a really long way. Carrying on a little bit of obedience training, just sort of scattered through in the walk, making it a little bit fun and engaging, just so he doesn't get bored. And it helps bring the focus back onto me as opposed to everything else going on around. When we try and cross the road, he dashes in front again, which is why I stopped him. The other reason why I stopped him is his owner is very proud that she was able to teach him to sit and wait at a curb. And I do want to keep that going for her because she's very proud of it. And it could really help Hank keep him out of danger if it's reinforced enough that he knows he needs to sit and wait at a curb. So here you can see a little bit of leash pressure work, and I'm only able to do this because it's under threshold at the moment. And we pull gently. The second he gives in, we mark and reward, and that way he learns that he comes back to us when the lead is tight, rather than that means he can keep going forward. So he's a bit all over the place, so I stop him because he wanted to go and smell. So a reward doesn't have to be treats. A reward can be anything your dog actually enjoys. So he wanted to smell, so I made him not pull on the lead, and then he follows me, and then that's when he gets to smell. All those little things can add up to quite a bit of extra positive reinforcement. So when we get to the park, again, we do a little bit more just basic obedience and pretty much keep doing what we've been doing. Another benefit of this is he's going to get very tired because of the amount of mental stimulation he's getting. Because he's a Frenchie, over-exercising him isn't going to be great, but by doing enrichment and getting his mind working and smelling and engaging with us, will all have a longer lasting, more positive impact. What happens now is we do see a dog coming into the park. It's very important that you are paying attention to what's going on around you. So what I noticed is the owner called the other dog back. The dog didn't go back to him, he ran off. That to me is a sign that I should not be around that dog in case something was to happen. We have had such a successful walk right now, I don't want another person and their dog messing that up for us. And Hank actually goes into lead biting because he saw the other dog. This is the very, very first time we've actually been able to get him to stop lead biting. While it did take a little bit longer, the point is he still stopped. That is like an extra minute or 2 minutes of a reduction in behaviour. So right now, pretty much because he was a little bit frustrated from the trigger of seeing the other dog, we were then able to keep him under threshold so he can still pay attention and he can still act. And then he gets positive association from all the treats and not biting his lead. So we are swapping out the behaviour, offering a better alternative, and the better alternative is to just keep doing what you're doing and pay attention to me, not bite the lead or pull towards the other dog. This was only possible because we are able to keep him under threshold. And this is a sign that the progress is working, is actually quite quick considering how bad the lead biting is. Is it gonna always be like that? No, not at all, but you have to celebrate the smaller victories along the way. And the walk carries on and we pretty much just keep rewarding, keep doing the same thing. For Hank, quality works better than quantity. So for Hank as an individual dog, he goes over threshold very, very quickly. On our walks, it's around about the 10-minute mark. He starts to get overtired and a bit ratty. So I'm starting to tailor that and bring it down. If we see 1 or 2 dogs and he doesn't react, we take him back rather than pushing it to get to the point where he goes over threshold and gets too tired. So we're really aiming to set Hank up for as much success as possible to reinforce all the behaviors we do like. With Hank's lead biting being as bad as it is, I want him to make sure that he's still getting the outlet of biting something. So we're going to be using tug of war. And the beautiful thing about this is we're able to use tug of war in a very structured way. I'm attaching a word or a command to it that when I say play, it means he's allowed to bite. If I don't say the word, he's not allowed to bite. And then we'll also teach him the word drop. And right there, what you can see is I learned from my previous mistake after watching myself back, and I'm not holding my hand in the treat pouch and pulling it out as a reward. I'm preloading my hand, so it's already there. The other thing I'm also doing with this is later on you see I start swapping out the hand the treat is in. The treat is in my right hand, and I'll raise up my left hand to tell him to drop, and then I reward him from this hand. This is so he doesn't become fully dependent on being able to see and know there's a treat in my hand, that he can just follow it, and then he gets rewarded for the other one. And then we can phase that out later on, so we can simply say drop, and then reward him. With the command play or tug, I'll be slowly... You're right, Coops. Yeah. We're going to be slowly building this up and making it harder and harder and adding in a higher level of distraction. Another thing you can do with this as well is you can tease a little bit with a tug toy, and then you can practice drop rather than tugging for a minute and then practicing drop. And that way they'll be less solely focused on it because they're not fully engaged yet. And then you can add in duration with the tug and make it more intense, and then you can be tugging it as hard as you can, and then you drop. We'll also teach him the word wait, so that if I say wait, he has to wait, and then when he comes out, he can then play. That's how we are working on it, to try and work on his impulse control. So while this isn't perfect and instant, it's still sort of progress a little bit, and we're able to keep working on it. When you're training a dog like this, or your own dog at home, when you're trying something new, you are not going to get it right 100% of the time. And that's absolutely fine. Your dog is not going to get right 100% of the time. But as long as you pay attention to what you're doing, you can work on it, you can improve, and then your dog will have a clearer understanding. One thing I am doing here as well is I am using negative punishment. Negative punishment is where you remove a desirable object from your dog. So when on the walk, it was stopping him from smelling, whereas here I'd pull up the tug of war toy so he can't get to it. And then I make him wait, take a step back and try it again. He's very smart, so he picks up on this very, very quickly. And we haven't been doing super intense training sessions either. Realistically, we've been spending about half an hour in total a day, which isn't that long. And as time goes on, we can build it up more and more and more. So it's still very early days for Hank, and I want these videos to show real life dog training, not just instant gratification and a quick before and after. I want you guys to see the whole journey we're going on before I do a full video. So if you're interested in Hank's progress, then please subscribe. We're on 280, which is absolutely insane. And thank you for watching. Hopefully this video has been helpful.